for January 11th to order. And I am going to start by reading my Zoom meeting script. This meeting is being conducted utilizing teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with State of California executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Zoom is being utilized for this meeting. In case of technical issues, meetings will be uploaded to the city website as soon as possible after this meeting. We will be conducting today's meeting in a virtual setting using Zoom. Planning commissioners and staff are participating from remote locations, practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting by use of Zoom as noted on the city's website and as noted on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak to the Planning Commission may do so during public comment or may comment on agenda items during the discussion of each item and must be logged into Zoom. Anyone using abusive, vulgar, offensive, threatening, or harassing language, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive terms that target specific individuals or groups will be muted and removed from the meeting. Please do not abuse this new way to provide public comment. And with that, I will ask for a roll call.
Okay, we will start with Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Here.
Commissioner Burns.
Here.
Vice Chair Ottinger.
Here.
And Chair Fritz.
Here. Okay, next we have two draft minutes to approve. Let's take the first from October 26th. Does anyone have any changes or comments on those? I don't think.
Kathy, you have your hand raised?
Oh, sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
Yes, no, I was going to make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
second that.
I'll second it.
All right, lots of seconds. Take your pick, Carrie.
Chair Fritz, I think it was either Linda or Everett.
I'll go with Linda.
Okay. All right, we'll do a roll call for that. Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Ottinger?
Yes.
And Chair Fritz.
Yes.
All right, those minutes are approved as presented.
All right. Now we have November 9th. Are there any comments or questions, corrections? I noticed a couple of just typos, I think.
Okay, sure, Fritz, if you want to just email those to me offline, or
Yeah, I can do that.
that'd be great. Perfect.
Okay, does someone like to make a motion? Kathy's hand is up.
Yes, I'll move that we approve the minutes of November 9th with those corrections that you will submit.
Is there a second?
All right, I can second it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll start the roll off with the same pattern. Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
And Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Ottinger?
Yes.
And Chair Fritz.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And as you've noticed, we do have the minutes coming your way. We'll have a couple more at your next meeting. We have someone on board to do those as Rebecca is still on a leave of absence. But thank you for wading through a couple minutes each time, and we'll try to get those to you in a more timely manner.
All right, no problem. All right, next we have comments from members of the public on items that are not on tonight's agenda. And seeing as we have no members of the public in attendance, unless Lon, you have something you'd like to state that has nothing to do with your project. I think we can move on from there and go to statements of conflicts of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest they'd like to note? Okay, then we will move on to our first and only public hearing tonight, 709 First Street. Planning Director Svanstrom, would you like to give us a staff report on this, please?
Sure, and actually the Associate Planner, John Jay, is the project planner for this, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to him to present project background and the staff report.
Thanks, Carrie. The project that we have here tonight is once again at 709 First Street, and the applicant is seeking a variance for reduced setbacks on an existing structure. The structure is currently located 2 feet 6 inches from the property line and equates to 1,632 square feet. 769 square feet of that is proposed to be an ADU, 205 square feet of a conditioned music room, and the remaining 658 square feet of unconditioned storage space. The zoning code allows for accessory structures to be up to 3 feet from the property line, and ADUs by state law 4 feet from the property line. Since the structure does not meet either of those requirements, the request for the variance is needed. Within section 17.160 of the zoning code, non-conforming buildings are allowed to be repaired or restored up to 50% as determined by the building official, and no additional permitting would be required. However, this project has exceeded that percentage as determined by the building official. The city routed this project to building, fire, engineering, public works, and police for comments. The only comments received from those departments were fire, requiring fire sprinklers in the building, and the building department requiring a 1-hour fire rating along the wall facing the property line. Properties within 600 feet of the project were also noticed, and no public comment was received. While in most cases for residential remodels of existing accessory structures, it's always advised to consult with the building and planning departments for guidance. Unfortunately, that's not the case for this project. However, the applicant has been willing to work with staff on getting this project to an improvable state. In the staff report, since staff is unable to make finding A, staff is requesting that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing, deliberate the project, and provide guidance on how the proposed structure will meet these findings, and continue this item to a date certain, either January 25th, 2022 or February 8th, 2022. And some of the recommendations are located within the findings section of the staff report to deliberate tonight.
Great, thank you, John. Does anyone have any questions of John? Everett?
Here, Fritz.
Everett? Yeah, go ahead, Linda, go ahead.
Just a few questions. Was this original structure, when was it built?
I'm not sure of the exact date of its construction. I might refer to Lon on potentially giving that information, but I believe it was before building permits would have been required for that structure. So
yeah,
50s, 60s.
I went to Santa Rosa and had the surveyor notes pulled, and what I saw was from, I think it was 1925 or somewhere around there. There were many. The property was subdivided many times, since then, and there are many structures that were existing that were on the property. Most of them had been destroyed. This is or taken down for whatever reason. This was the only structure that was still standing.
Okay,
Commissioner Kelly, I can add to that. We do always have our building official determine whether or not it was legally constructed. And part of that has to do with if there was a permit process in place at time, but also, assessing the structure. And he has assessed that, yes, it would have been constructed legally with a permit, if that was required at the time.
And the issue that was mentioned, that maybe there was a permit process that wasn't undertaken. So was there a permit required for the demolition of this outbuildings and then just remodeling it? Because it seems that, well, I just need to have that cleared up.
Yes, so there would have been a permit for the demolition, and with the remodel portion of the structure being in such a dilapidated status, that those remodels would have been necessary to, have it up to code and in a manner that would support habitable space and also, storage space.
But I think, and Linda, if the question is, was there a permit on file or pulled for it? The answer is no, there was not initially. So the initial work was done without a permit.
Is there any, once the project has come forward, for however that happened, how did we get this permit? Was there some kind of a complaint, or city staff saw that they were remodeling or building, or how did that happen?
I believe it was the building department that noticed the structure was being remodeled or replaced. And as far as the exact step-by-step, I think Lon might be able to address this.
The structure, when we purchased it, had a solar array on the roof. And what happened was we had permits pulled actually the contractor had permits pulled to remove the solar array and put it onto the main structure, which was more stable at the time. And so what happened was the inspector came for that and also red tagged us for the construction that was taking place on the barn at the same time.
Okay. And I'm sure we don't determine if there is, I know if sometimes there's a penalty, fees, and sometimes it's double the permitting fees or whatever, but I don't know if Sebastopol has that. I know they have that up in Mendocino in the county, but just wondering if there was, it's mostly for my information, because I know this kind of stuff happens all the time, So,
yes, the building department, as part of an unpermitted work red tag process, can charge an inspection fee. I think it's usually called, which I can do a quick look online to see what it is here, but I think it's either $2 or an administrative citation. And I'm actually looking up right now. I think it's either 2 or 3 times the building permit cost.
Ooh, okay.
I will confirm that though, Linda, and let you know what that is. That is generally up to the building official to assess that.
Okay.
So that's separate from the variance that the commission is hearing tonight. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for the information. That's helpful.
Okay, Everett?
Thank you. Regarding the accessory structure requirements, I'm just curious. So it says that sinks and toilets are allowed, however, showers are not allowed. What's the the reasoning behind that?
So in that space, it would be to not allow it to convert easily to a livable space. So limiting the shower and bedroom kind of orientation, if that's the case. The standards are a little bit more strict on habitable space as opposed to non-conditioned space where you could have a utility sink or just a single bathroom in there, as like a workshop sort of setup, as opposed to a living dwelling unit.
Yeah, and I can understand why, I guess those rules were in the past, but I know times have changed. It seems like we'd want to do the opposite. So I don't know if we have any leeway on that, or if it's something that because of the ordinances, I know California's coming up with some new ordinance and so forth. So I'm just kind of curious to see if there's any leeway there or what the thinking might be.
So Commissioner Fernandez, so if you have a shower, I mean, basically we want to know building code wise, if someone is doing a dwelling unit,
Right.
which an accessory dwelling unit, which this project includes, which is obviously the city encourages those, but those have certain health and safety standards that putting a shower in a U building code occupancy is a different. It's under a different part of the building code that doesn't necessarily have the same health and safety measures. So we don't want those converted without getting a permit, because we want to make sure that, like someone's not going to be living in a place where they don't have a proper bedroom egress window, or in many cases, you wouldn't necessarily have a separation between a heating unit, a water heater or something, and you get fumes of carbon dioxide. And so a lot of that has to do with, we do have allowances for creating ADUs, but we want those to be in ADUs, not illegal conversions because you had a shower in a non-habitable space.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that just to make sure that was understood. Okay. Thank you.
And we did adjust the plans once we were notified about that, because the original plans did have the extra sink, and we, as we were instructed, we removed those from the plans.
Kathy, had some questions?
Yeah, I did, but I guess these are actually for the applicant.
Okay, so let's stick with staff questions for the moment.
Yeah.
I did have a couple of other staff questions. And I guess one of them is, again, I'm just trying to understand this non-conforming facility section of the code. And it seems like, there's a line in here about, I get the 50% replacement cost. And I guess just so I understand that, so for example, if the cost to replace the entire original structure was $100,000, then what they're allowed to do in terms of repairs or remodel work is limited to $50,000. Is that what that means?
Yes. Yes, that would generally be the case, that, what is the replacement cost is the basis. So 50% of the replacement cost.
Okay.
And that's an assessment that our building official makes.
Okay. So in that non-conforming facility section 17-160-040, section B, there's a sentence that says, other repairs or alterations may be permitted, provided that a conditional use permit shall first be secured in each case. So I guess I'm wondering, is it possible to do this as a use permit rather than a variance? I know there's two issues. There's a setback issue, but there's also the non-conforming use issue. So I'm just wondering, from the non-conforming use standpoint, is it possible that this work could be done with a use permit because it's more than the 50% valuation.
That provision is, oh, so you're saying, yeah, so the provision is providing that no increase in the number of dwelling units results in any expansion. But you're looking at the last sentence of that. I can share my screen if it helps to show this code language.
Well, so yeah, there's
so as a non-conforming building, and I can just here's the language of no more than 50% of the replacement cost is determined by the building official, and so this structure is beyond that.
Yeah.
Ordinary maintenance and repairs may be made to any non-conforming building, provided no structural alterations beyond a certain percentage, except for single-family residences. This is not a single-family residence.
Well, yeah, but that line about except single-family residence says that single-family residents may make improvements or expansions. If it's not a single-family residence, you can do ordinary maintenance and repair as long as such work does not exceed 15% of the appraised value. Then that last line is other repairs may be permitted, provided that other repairs are
I see what you're
alterations.
saying.
So this is an alteration of
right,
existing non-conforming building.
And
So
because
just
it's
wondering if
already an existing setback, it could potentially be done as a use permit because it's not
Yes.
expanding the variance, the setback nonconformity. Yeah, I think if the consensus of the commission is that it should be processed as a use permit, I think that certainly that language can apply here.
So then going to the setback question then, my question is, so in the ADU section of the code, 17220.20.f talks about conversion of existing structures into accessory dwelling units. And it talks about a non-garage one-story building legally constructed prior to October 19th, 2004. The rear setback needs to conform to the setback for an accessory structure, but the side setback is not required. So if this was an existing accessory building with a non-compliant side setback, and now they want to put an ADU in it, it sounds like to me that the side setback can be non-compliant in that situation. So this is point.
Right, and that is, Chair Fritz, if I may, normally, and John and Steve Brown from our building department have processed a number of these. We do have a lot of non-conforming accessory structures in town. And a lot of times people will come and talk to the building department, and John and Steve will work with them with a non-conforming side or rear structure setback, and work with them to keep it under the non-conforming 50% demolition limit. Mm-hmm. So in a normal circumstance, yes, and you know, that can include things like sistering on reuse of certain parts of the foundation, those types of things. We try to provide guidance to people so they don't end up in this particular situation, because it's something that, you know, we want the ADUs. Yeah. So normally we're able to work with people and get them through to a place where they can do that. And then it does not require planning commission approval for it moving forward.
Got it. Okay, that is all my staff questions. Anyone else have any follow-up staff questions? So Lon, do you have anything else you'd like to state at this point? And then we can ask, well, there might be some other questions of you, but I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to share at this time, or.
No, I can answer any questions that you have. And I do want to say, of course, I appreciate your time discussing this. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Sure. Kathy.
Yes, thank you. I need to leave shortly, so
yeah.
I wanted to ask you if you know what kind of music will be played within the music studio.
Oh, it's guitar.
Okay, thank you. So my only concern was whether would involve drumming.
No, it won't be a band or anything like that, or drums. It's guitar.
Okay, thank you.
My husband plays the guitar, so.
Are there any other questions of the applicant? I had a question. My understanding, there was an original barn there, some kind of accessory structure that was it looked like from the photos, maybe it didn't had like a dirt floor originally. There was no floor in there.
It was fascinating, I have to say. It was originally a chicken coop, a large chicken coop, which had the roof at one point raised.
Mm-hmm.
It was then, by the previous owners, they built some sort of room inside for a sewing company or something, and then they went further and they built a grow operation inside of it, and that's the reason why the solar array was on top of it, was for the grow operation. So when we got there, there was these two additional rooms, and at one point I think there were occupants living in there as well. We found evidence that people were living in there, so it was kind of a mishmash of what was inside, but majority of it was actually broken up concrete and dirt on the floor.
And then so in terms of when the reconstruction happened, so the walls are the same place, they're the same height, the roof is the same pitch, you didn't increase the height or the width or the depth or anything like that?
The walls are in the same place, the footprint is exactly the same. As far as the pitch, I can't tell you that. I'm not too sure about that, and I don't want to mislead you.
Sure.
But it was, but we tried to actually keep it as much in kind with the structure that was there originally. In fact, we took off all the wood and is reclaiming all the wood on the siding of it, so it actually looks like it should be there.
Yeah,
it looks like it has always been there. In other words, it's in keeping.
And then with the fire department requirement for sprinklers and the 1 hour wall on the property line, has that work been done, or is that something you would have to undertake if this gets approved?
That has not been undertaken. We found about that after the fact, and of course we will do the 1 hour wall and put the sprinklers in. And I think actually the new plans were drawn with the sprinklers and the 1 hour wall added in.
Got it. Any other questions for the applicant? If not, I see. Go ahead, Deborah.
Remembering to unmute. So now that you mentioned that there was a grow room in there, I know that there's been a lot of concerns with building where there was a grow house for toxic considerations. So the chemicals and whatnot that are used inside. It sounds like you've replaced all the walls and all the floor. Is it all new construction?
Yeah, in fact, when we started actually taking down the roof, the way they built it, there was a space between what was the roof and the new roof, and that was just infested with rats. And so we just had it kept on going. Every time we uncovered something else that was unsavory about it. The foundation we repoured the foundation because we weren't too sure what would, from the years of chickens being in there and the grow operation, we just sorry if that's too much information, but
No. I just, from a safety, dwelling issue concern.
We want to be good stewards of the property that we're on and contribute to the community. And so we were trying to do as much as we could to keep the flavor and also make it safe, of course.
All right. If you have no more questions, any thoughts from the commission on moving forward? How to proceed?
So I think, Chair Fritz, I think you do need to open the public hearing and close it, even though we don't have any members of the public here.
Thank you. So I will open this for members of the public that would like to make a comment. Seeing
I
no
do not
members
see
of
any.
the public wanting to make a comment, I will close public comment and bring it
And
back to the commission.
John, can you confirm that we did not receive any public comments?
Yes, there was no public comments received in writing or in this meeting.
I guess I have another question for you, Lon, and that's obviously it seems like the only sort of neighbor that this would impact would be your neighbor to the north. Have you had any conversations with them, or have they had any concerns or issues that you're aware of? Or
No, they haven't. In fact, we actually no. In fact, they're very we actually replaced the fence that was there, which they're very happy about, of course. But no concerns.
Go ahead, Everett.
Yeah, so a question regarding some of the stuff that you'd brought up, Paul, regarding something being more of a permit issue. Just wondering if you feel that's a direction you have any suggestions on that part of it?
I'm sorry, is that for me or for?
No, I think that's for staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
for Paul.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of why I brought it up. I mean, I might be able to make some argument for the variance findings, but it seems like it might be an easier route to go the use permit direction. And so I'm happy to hear staff's opinion of that.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Fritz. Yes, I do actually think, and so, one of the hard findings for variance is that a homeowner can't create the need for the variance themselves as part of the, it's just something with the property or the nature. And, there's a bunch of trees that have been there and they want to avoid the trees or something like that. I believe that was probably the last variance the commission saw. So I've had, while others were presenting, I did read through that, and I do believe, yes, the other repairs or alterations section of 17, the non-conforming facility, B, other repairs or alterations may be permitted, provided that a conditional use permit shall first be secured. If they are not changing the envelope or increasing the envelope at all, then there is no need for a variance. It could be processed as a use permit for this. And then the findings for the use permit are much simpler to make. And I'm looking at John. I believe, yeah, he's nodding his head. I believe we can make the findings for that based on the direction of the commission.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be leaning towards that direction unless there's any reason why we shouldn't be.
Any other thoughts about that from anyone? Anyone have a concern about approaching it in that direction?
Linda Kelly here.
Go ahead, Linda.
No, I think that would be a good way to go. I can't imagine how many non-conforming structures we have in town. And so otherwise we'll be making lots of variances, it seems, as time goes on. So I like that approach.
Okay, and in that regard, Chair Fritz, I can put up with the findings. I'll show the findings for a conditional use permit. So this is, if we're sort of turning to this, and I actually would recommend this. This is a great option for with no increase in the nonconformity that we can take advantage of. So conditional use permits are discretionary. They're granted by the Planning Commission. The requirements is that it's consistent with the general plan, which obviously our general plan encourages housing units, and so that component of it certainly helps. And the character, it's basically the same character as what was already there in that semi-rural part of town, and that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the continued use would not be detrimental to the health, safety, peace, morals, comfort or general welfare to persons residing or working in the area of such use, the neighborhood or the city overall. And in that light, the commission can require certain conditions of approval to ensure those two conditions are met. And so we already, as John presented, we have the condition for the 1 hour wall to protect the adjoining property and harden that side against fire hazards, as well as the fire sprinklers, which are not required in all ADUs, but they are in substantial ones like the one of this size. And if the commission has other considerations, that would be great to hear direction to staff on that.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Also, how does the possibility of the fee that we were, or the penalty fee would apply? I'm hope that based on their intent to try to do the right thing here, that I don't know if we necessarily have the authority, but at least can encourage that perhaps that be considered to not levy those fines based on what is trying to be done here and what we're trying to accomplish. So just, I don't know if that has any effect with it or applies to it in any way.
Yeah, so I can certainly convey that information to the building official for leniency on that. It is up to the building official, and obviously they end up spending a bit of time. So there is some cost to it, but I can certainly convey that to the building official.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that sentiment. I think, it seems like they were doing something that weren't aware was a problem. They're trying to fix it. They've come to us. I think it's showing good faith. So if we can try to offer some leniency, that would be nice. So Carrie, would you bring this back to this as a use permit at the next meeting then, with these findings and all the conditions then for kind of final resolution?
Correct, yes. Well, instead of findings for a variance, we will process as a use permit and make the findings for that and bring that back. And I'm going to look to John in terms of the timing. I know we have, it sounds like it's pretty straightforward in terms of sort of almost a consent calendar, i.e. not needing discussion by the commission, but just putting in the calendar so that you can review the final findings and conditions and then take a vote. So it could be either the next meeting where we do have right now we have scheduled Phoebe Golden, our climate fellow, on the climate action framework, as well as the gas station ban hearing, which has been publicly noticed already. So we want to make sure we move forward with that on the 25th. Although, as I recall, the last discussion of that only took about half an hour last with the commission. So I think it's if John feels he can do the findings and prepare that for next meeting, the schedule would accommodate either that or the next meeting.
Great, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I think I should be able to have that ready for the next meeting. Like Carrie mentioned, there's only 2 findings that we have to make. I think overall the project's pretty straightforward and it already kind of meets those requirements. So just getting that in a formal document and putting it in front of you guys to have an official vote on it, I think the 2-week period.
Great, yeah, and it shouldn't take up too much time in the meeting. It seems we've talked about it, and no one seems to have any concern about that approach. So it seems like we should be able to squeeze it in if John can get that done. Great.
Okay, so in that case, I would recommend that there be a motion to continue the item to the date certain of January 25th. That way we don't need to renotice and all of that kind of good stuff.
Okay.
Since anyone who is interested in it should have shown up today or talked to us before today.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I'd like to go ahead and make that motion.
I'll second that.
I think we got Linda because Deborah was muted. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or comments?
We didn't really get to say to the applicant our thoughts about the project. So is this a good time now?
Sure, Linda, if you have,
Short?
if you have something to share, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate, maintaining how this will fit in, historically will blend in, that you were concerned of not having windows on the north side. It's a very creative use of the space and reclaiming it. Can't make assumptions that organic fertilizers and nutrients were used in that grow. So, but I'll just put that in as an aside. We didn't get to talk about like parking or anything, but I know that it's going to be exempt as we go through. Welcome to our community and creating another housing unit. It's going to be good. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments from commissioners? Then I will ask our planning director to take a vote, please.
Sure, thank you. Commissioner Kelly. And this is,
Yes.
sorry, let me repeat. The motion is to continue the item to the January 25th meeting with staff providing findings and conditions of approval for the commission's consideration at that time for a conditional use permit related to the expansion and alteration of a non-conforming use, just to be super clear.
The consent calendar, or does that be still to be determined?
I don't think we'll do it as a consent calendar.
Okay.
We'll put it on, we'll probably put it on first before the other, it is a continued public hearing, so before the other public hearing. But I do want to make sure that the commission has a chance to discuss any of the conditions or findings.
Right, thank you.
Okay, I'll say yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ottinger is not here. Chair Fritz.
Yes.
Thank you. And that is a majority. So that motion has passed.
Well, thank you, Lon, for working with the city, and wish you luck in getting the project approved and occupied and operating.
Thank you so much for your time again. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So moving on, we have, what's next? Any subcommittee updates to be? Anyone have any subcommittee meetings recently to update us on? All right, seeing none, how about a planning director's report?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Fritz. And if I miss anything, John can chime in as well. But just a few upcoming meetings of interest to the commission. January 18th, which is next Tuesday, the City Council will be hearing the Huntley Square mini townhome subdivision project that is 7950 Bodega Avenue. That was actually, we just approved the minutes for it. So we have, right now we have the draft minutes in the packet that was sent off to the city clerk. And we'll just let them know that since there are no substantive changes, if those were approved if they have. And then February 1st, Jessica and Riley, our Calder Creek community visioning folks, will be presenting to the City Council the Planning Commission's recommendations and getting feedback and direction from them on that. And then on March 1st, the Four Leaf, our housing element, and staff will be presenting the housing element strategy that's based on, again, the recommendations from the commission interactions with them and some further work that they've been doing with us from the last commission meeting that they presented. And then the other item that may be of interest, January 18th, is there is a public hearing for a proposed ordinance related to RV parking in the city. For those of you who might be interested in attending for that. I will note I did send out a draft liaison list, and I don't remember who is for January. I can pull it. It's Kathy. Okay.
I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
Okay, so I will check with Kathy and make sure that she's available for the January 18th. We definitely do want to have a planning commission representative for that Huntley Square project. And then we will also, for February 1st, when the Calder Creek presentation gets to council, and also March 1st. So we will have a few items that we'll want to have representation. And Deborah, since I just realized that you don't necessarily know what that is. So when we have an item where the planning commission has presented a recommendation to city council, we do have a planning commission liaison, i.e. a member of the commission who attends that meeting. And so in case council has any questions about what the commission's thoughts in general were in recommending the project, any considerations and things like that they may have regarding the planning commission's recommendation.
And so so Kathy is January, Everett is February, and I am March.
Excellent. I don't know how more perfectly that could work out with Everett from our Ice Park subcommittee for the Calder Creek and Paul for our housing strategy. That's great.
Planned it.
Fate.
Oh no, I'm going to take credit for planning.
Okay, you can.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
All right. So yeah, if you do have any issues on the liaison list, just let me know. But otherwise, that we have an alternate in case the primary contact can't attend. So just finalize that. Otherwise. And then last update, we do have, we had 3 sculptures installed at Ives Park today as part of the Community Sculpture Garden installation. We have a 4th one being installed next Tuesday, and we'll have signage going up for both the art pieces and the entries to that area of the park in the next couple of weeks as well. So if you do get a chance, definitely go by and see. If not this week, definitely by next Tuesday afternoon. The 4 sculptures that are part of this first phase will be in.
Great.
And I think that's all I have on my plate. I'm sure I'm missing stuff on the council agenda, so definitely check those out if you're interested. But I'm happy to answer any other questions the commission might have.
Carrie, yeah, maybe you mentioned this, I just missed it. So the item that was on the council agenda with the recent meeting regarding the commission zones and stuff, is that going to be, a continuation date for that?
Thank you. We did have them continue it. I was not feeling well and wasn't able to attend the meeting last Tuesday. So let's see, the first time it was on the calendar in December, it got bumped because of time. And then, it was rescheduled this last Tuesday, but it got bumped again because I wasn't able to attend. I believe that is also scheduled for February 1st, but I can check that and make sure we have reviewed it. I believe that's the meeting was rescheduled for Everett. So I'll let you know.
It was for the, just to let the other commissioners know, for the regions, for the different representations, right?
Yeah, so this was changing from zip code to the 3 school districts, and then also officially changing eliminating the alternate and changing the majority of the members being required to be residents of Sebastopol. So in the case of a business, and a lot of business owners living out of town and being in town wouldn't be, a majority will always have to be residents of town.
Okay.
And I can note that we did, obviously Zach's term resignation was effective end of December. We have 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission. The city did not receive any applications for those. I don't know if council will be discussing that moving forward. They did do the standard 2-week re-advertising them, but we still don't have any additional applicants for that. So I imagine council will be discussing that at a future meeting as well.
Yeah, because I remember about a year ago, there's some discussion about different things having to do with the commission. One of them was consideration possibly reducing it down to 5 versus 7. And they said they would bring it up again in a year, which has been about now. And I'm just wondering, this is like an ideal time to, is it some, whether or not it's done, but if it's a good time at least to discuss it, and rather than try to continue extending the applications and then get an application, and now you're kind of in a different situation. So I'm just wondering what other commissioners feel about that, or if that's something that get some input as to how we might be able to address that.
Yeah, and I think in terms of we did bring that recommendation and possibility forward. You're right, Commissioner Fernandez, when it was originally presented to council last spring, when these various pieces were, under consideration. At that time, they'd only wanted to go down to 7, not to the 5. But some of the council members were open to discussing reducing it further. Obviously that's up to council to determine. The way the ordinance is written, they could actually change that at the meeting when they're reviewing when they have the public hearing for the ordinance. I believe they would, because it would simply be changing the number from 7 to 5. All else is written, like I said, the residents being the majority of the commissioners. It's not a specific number. So it would be an easy thing for them to change, easy ordinance change if council wanted to do such a move.
I'm just wondering if that was to be discussed, if it makes sense for, and I don't know if they could do this, to just hold off on continue to extend the application, knowing that this might be discussed, or if you just kind of continue to do that, and then if you do get an application, you have to deal with that, or how that might be handled. I know it's just next week, but
yeah, no, I certainly understand. I don't know when they're planning on, or if they're planning on re-advertising before the ordinance goes to the council. I will ask the city clerk about that and see if there's a possibility of scheduling those kind of on the same night so they can talk about it at the same time.
Yeah, seems to make sense. Okay, thank you.
Deborah, did you want to say something?
Yeah, can you clarify for me when you say the majority needs to be residents? Because I always wondered that this county is so kind of oddly, like the city of Sebastopol is used by so many residents, not just the people who actually live within city limits. And so, we lose a lot of potential candidates to help out in our local government by being outside of the city limits. So when you say it has to be the majority of people living in the city, do you mean that there's opportunity for people who are not, or could you clarify that for me?
Sure. So let's see, right now we have one seat that is open to, one seat that's actually designated to be someone outside of city limits, but within the 95472 zip code. Council wants to change that to be the 3 elementary school districts, because 95472 goes all the way up to Occidental and Rio Nita and a couple other places that are further afield. The school district is more sort of just, more specifically around Sebastopol and more representative. So right now, Kathy Ottinger is outside of the city limits representative. So yes, and the city of Sonoma and Cloverdale both have a similar most councils, most commissions require that all of the commissioners reside in town. And so this is a little unusual, but we do allow one, as does Sonoma and Cloverdale, to be outside city limits, but within a geography. We also allow business owners who own a business in town but live outside of the city limits. And in our current ordinance, there's no limit to that specified. And so what both the commission, the planning commission recommended the council, and council agreed with, was that that's great, and we want to keep that, but we don't ever want to get to a place where we have 4 out of the 7 are actually don't reside in the city. So we want to make sure that there's 4 of the 7 are within the city, and folks who own a business and live in town. There's not a restriction on the number of business owners, but there will be a restriction on the number who can be outside of the city limits.
Okay, and so right now you said there is 1 seat available for someone who is outside of city limits?
There is 1 seat specifically for that, and it's filled right now by Kathy Ottinger, so it's not an open seat until her term is up, and then that category will be re-advertised. Yeah. And I think the way, I would have to check the language. I think that's an option for them. It's not a requirement. So if they got a bunch of residents and non-residents wanting to apply, I don't think they would be required to appoint out of an out of town, out of city limit position, but it allows them to.
Thank you.
Yeah, a question, Carrie. So we're supposed to be a commission of 7, and the Brown Act specifies that you can't meet more than 3 commissioners, so not a majority. Now, if 2 seats are unfilled, does that still apply, or does it go down to like 2 because now we only have 5 active commissioners? Just to be clear, don't run a problem with that.
Boy, you want to make sure I keep my Brown Act rules up to date, huh? I believe it would still be 3, although I think I would recommend that we limit ourselves to 2 commissioners. Like, for instance, both Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Ottinger are on the Climate Action Committee. That's still not a majority. If there's something that's going to them that's going to be coming to the Planning Commission, like the gas station ban, I'd probably recommend that we limit the commissioners to the less than a majority of our current voting or our current appointed commissioners at this time.
Okay, yeah, because
I can check with the city attorney on that, but I suspect he'll probably have that same answer.
Yeah,
out of do the diligence of if we only have 5 seated right now, which we do,
right.
And that seems like that's foreseeable, at least for a couple of months, until either the ordinance takes effect or additional commissioners are appointed. Then let's try to limit any discussions between commissioners about commission topics to 2, and then we know we're not breaching any quorum protocols.
All right. I had a question, Carrie. I'm just wondering, before the holidays, we talked about this planning commissioner training idea, and we were going to bring that to the council. I think we talked about taking that to the council as a budget kind of adjustment item. I was wondering kind of when does that happen? And since that's something that I brought forward, I feel like I should probably be at that council meeting.
Right. And I did look at my budget, and I think we can accommodate it this year. If we do it again next year, I won't be able to, but in this year's budget, I will be able to accommodate with just with the existing department budget because we have some savings in other areas. So we do not need to wait for a budget approval from council to be able to fund that. So we can go ahead and start scheduling those.
Okay. So
I would probably not recommend next Tuesday because we're already going to have 3 items, or the next time because we're already going to have 3 items. But
but maybe we can talk. Maybe we can talk offline. Look at the schedule coming up and
that sounds great.
Start placing those. Cool,
Perfect.
great. Any other questions of anyone about anything planning related? All right, well, great. Thank you, everyone. I will adjourn the meeting then until whatever 2 weeks from today is, the 28th.
I believe it's the 25th, and now that I've said that, let me just check, because if not, we'll need you to reopen and
25th, it's the 25th, yes.
25th, okay, good. Otherwise, we're gonna have you reopen and continue the hearing items.
All right, yes. So we'll see you all on the 25th. Thanks.